welcome to the Echo Tips Podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to revisit the Reminders feature on the Amazon Echo, and we're going to take it to a whole new level. That's right, next generation reminders. So in particular, if you're familiar with reminders already, we're going to learn more about how you can get those reminders on your phone, you can get those reminders more than twice, and other things connected with notifications that we talked about in a previous episode that directly affect reminders. But before we get into that in any sort of detail, we're going to go to a brief message about our podcast, and then we'll be right back. This episode is brought to you by the New Vision program at Goodwill. We're also grateful for the kind use of WVTF Studios. New Vision is a program of Goodwill that provides information services and assistive technology training to individuals with visual impairments living in Southwest Virginia. Goodwill Industries of the Valleys is a nonprofit organization serving the New River, Roanoke, and Shenandoah Valleys of Virginia. Goodwill's mission services help individuals with disabilities and disadvantages to get back to work and gain greater independence. These shows are provided for educational purposes. This podcast may not be retransmitted, sold, or reproduced without written permission from New Vision. Hello! Welcome back. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be discussing the Reminders feature on the Amazon Echo line of devices this week. Now, we covered that way back in Season 1, and I would say it's one of the hallmarks of the capabilities of the Amazon Echo. I use them all the time, and I've encouraged many students that I've set up these Echoes for to utilize them. In the case of caregivers or those that are seniors and the like, you need reminders about medication and the like. We're going to talk about some really super nifty tweaks you can do that might make those much more functional for you today. And this is closely tied with our previous episode dealing with notifications and tailoring those. So I said I was going to do a breakout episode specifically as the application to reminders, and that is this episode. Now, for those of you that are listening for the very first time, we'd like to welcome you. My name is David Ward. I'm an assistive technology instructor with the New Vision program at Goodwill, where we teach a lot of cool stuff, but in the podcasting arena, we have little nuggetized episodes teaching you about your Amazon Echo and skills and games and other things at times, especially new things we try to delve into. For those that are returning, we'd like to welcome you back as well in either one of those groups. If you would like to reach out to us about future ideas or concepts or questions or things you'd like to hear more in depth, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook or on Twitter at Goodwill Industries of the Valleys. Okay, well, let's delve right into the Reminders feature. You're probably very familiar with the ability to say, "Hey lady, set a reminder." "Hey lady, set a repeating reminder." That's even awesomer. So not only can you set a reminder for tomorrow or later today or by date, you could say April the 5th. You can also set a repeating reminder, so every Tuesday at this time or every day at this time, this goes off. Mine does that. It reminds me my bus is coming to get me for work or different things like that. Now, I'm about to use the A Lady name to demonstrate something you probably have never seen done on the Echo. But before I do that, you might want to mute the ears of any Echoes that are in hearing distance of me at this moment, and that way I don't trigger your Echo at home. But if you're listening to this podcast on your Echo, you should be just fine. Okay, so I'll just give you a second to do that. While you're doing that, I'm going to turn the ears on my Echo. And this isn't perfectly microphoned today, just for expediency, but I think you'll totally get the point here. So let me show you something you may have never seen your Echo do. Alexa, create a reminder called "This is a Test."
When should I remind you?
10 seconds.
Okay, I'll remind you in 10 seconds.
Obviously, like I said, you could set a date, a time, whatever in the future. Now, typically, you're going to hear that yours might do something different than this one does. Let's see.
This is a reminder. This is a test. This is a reminder. This is a test. This is a reminder.
It's going to just
This
keep
is a
on
test.
going. Alexa, stop. So shut the ears off again so I can start talking about her. Anyway, so what did you notice that was different? Well, you might have noticed reminders on your Echo typically, by default, only chime twice and repeat the verbal label which you assign to them. So that label could be, remind me of a doctor's appointment, remind me to take my medication, remind me to take my allergy pills, whatever the case may be, whatever that reminder is. Now, typically, like I said, default configuration is it will only chime twice and then it will stop. So that kind of has limits if you're not in the same room at the exact same time, other things like that. Even if it's a repeating reminder, it will only go off that 2 times by default. Okay, so this is where we delve into what we learned about last week on our notification settings. So, if you have the app, the Alexa app that is installed on your smartphone or tablet, open that app up and then go to the bottom right corner where there's a menu icon. It's going to have a couple of dashes or lines. I think one is slightly shorter than the other two. This button used to be in the top left corner, was basically the menu button. I think it's at this time you could say it's a menu button or a more button. So you'll tap on that. That's going to slide out a context menu with a variety of settings you can go to, including reminders, music, all these things. In particular, we want to go down that list to settings. Tap on settings. Now you're going to be in what I would call the global settings menu. All of these general settings aren't applicable to any single Echo in your home. For that, you would need to go into devices and select a particular Echo. But these are ones that will be applied to all of your Echoes simultaneously as a rule. But there are some exceptions to that. But we're going to scroll down this list and go right into notifications. We visited this last week, but now we're looking at it for a very specific reason. Now, in your notifications area, you're going to have an alphabetized listing, I do believe. It could be maybe not quite alphabetical, with a variety of natively built-in features on your Echo, along with skills that have the capacity for notifications, like Domino's Pizza and things like that. If you'd like to learn more about that, go back to last week's episode. You can always just tell your A-Lady to skip, or play previous, and go back and hear last week's if you'd like to. Or at the end of this, it probably will go right back to next week's as well. This episode. Okay, so we don't want to look at Domino's Pizza. What we want to look at is the natively built-in features. And in this particular discussion, we're talking about reminders. So you're going to tap on reminders. Now, right there at the top of that, hopefully this new page, you're going to see a wonderful set of switches. One of the switches is, would you also like to get this notification on your A-Lady app on your smartphone or tablet? So that will pop up as a textual notification. Now, I had shut mine off so that when mine went off here in the classroom, my phone didn't chirp in my pocket at the same time. But I typically have that on. And that's a really great feature. And that's kind of been kind of a kludge in a way up until what we did today, which is that I can be somewhere else in a grocery store and still get that reminder that maybe I needed that day. And so that's very useful. Just look at my pocket, pull out my phone out of my pocket, look at whatever the reminder was, and I'm informed. Now, if you skim down further on that page, this is where it gets kind of interesting. Your ability to change how many times you get the notification. So you're going to look at that, and you can tap on that, and then you'll have a menu where you can select once, twice, which is default, which is probably what it's set to, 3 times, and then I think it says upwards of an hour, basically, before it stops. So that is pretty cool. So that's basically what that's what I did in this demonstration, that it would just keep going off for an hour until it stopped. Now, let's look back at that app, and I'm going to pull it up on my own phone so I can walk you through it. Okay, so additional features you may have seen in here is another one which I think is super helpful, which was right below the top one where you get it on your app or on your phone or tablet. And that is announce these reminders on all devices. Now for me, I think that's super fantastic. And I mentioned that last week. If I'm at home and I need to remember something at work the next day, I can set that reminder on my Echo at home, And in times past, without this switch flipped, it would only go off at home. The only way I would really know that I'd had a reminder is that it would chirp on my phone at work. Now, that was okay. But now, with this switch flipped, you'll hear it at work as well when I'm here at work. So that's super helpful. You can think of other applications for this. Maybe if you're a caregiver or the like, or you have an elderly family member or whatever, they could have echoes throughout their house, in their kitchen, in their bedroom, upstairs, downstairs, in the basement, and it will go off on all of them so that hopefully they won't miss it. And if you tailor it in such a way that it's just not 2 chimes and it has to go, it goes off until they stop it, well, then there's a pretty good chance they're not going to miss that announcement. So that's super helpful as well. And so in addition, let's look back at our options here. So we see get it on the phone. We see announce it everywhere. We see where we can tailor how many times it announces it. So as we look down this list back in the app, you might see a few other extra features that we're probably going to address in a future episode. One is called Missed Reminder Notifications. And then further down on the page, we have Personal Reminders. Now, the first one is described a little bit, and if you tap onto it, you can learn more about the feature. And I haven't entirely figured out exactly how it works, but the idea is that it helps the Echo perceive whether you're present in the room or not, and that way help facilitate you getting the reminder, I believe, when you get back. Now, I've tested this out a little bit, just once or twice today. I couldn't quite figure out if I had got it right or not. That's why I'm going to address it in a future episode. But it seems like an interesting idea, especially, I don't know if it does this or not, so don't get your hopes up. But if you came back and it perceived that you were there, maybe you asked it a question, what time it is, you start playing music, and then it goes, oh wait, that's David, it chimes and goes, ding, by the way, you missed this 15 minutes ago, you had a whatever reminder to do this, or whatever the case may be. So that might be kind of cool. Versus the typical thing, especially on the Echoes that have screens, where typically it's more of a visual notification, like the yellow spinning light, or on the ones with screens, some sort of notification that says the last reminder is displayed on the screen. Now that might be good for some, but I work a lot with the visually impaired, and so that might not be adequate. While this feature, if it does do any kind of auditory thing or some sort of prompt when you re-enter, that would be interesting as well. But like I said, haven't tested it out. We might address that on a future episode. Now that leads to this last feature in the app, which is personal, what's it called? Personal reminders. Let me look down here again. Yeah, personal reminders. Now that is described as well in such a way that if you have your Echo configured for different voices, like a husband and a wife and the kids, it can tailor the reminder to the person's voice. Now, once again, don't know exactly how that works. Like, if I'm the dad and I'm talking to the Echo, and I just walked in the room, and I said play some music or something, and it says, oh wait a minute, that's David. He's the dad. I need to give him the hey, by the way, you were supposed to remember to do this. Maybe that's how it works, versus if the mother comes in the room or the children come in the room and they ask, maybe they get reminders that they themselves had set. So I'm not exactly sure how that is, but it's an interesting concept. I think between the two features here, this could be really remarkable in the future, that your Echo, whatever room you walk into, or you're at work or home, you could walk in the room, and once it establishes so many points of reference to say, hey, that's definitely David, you could come back and say, hey, I just wanted to let you know you had this reminder, that you had. So that's kind of cool. But by all means, these points at the top will really help you no matter where you're at, on your phone or your tablet. Get that reminder. No matter what room you're in, it can be announced across all the devices and not just that one. Or like with me, I have an Echo at work and an Echo at home that are on the same account, so I can that creates a seamlessness. And then lastly, this wonderful ability to change the number of prompts from 1 to 2 to 3 to upwards of an hour. It will just go off, and that's pretty cool. It would be nice. It would be nice if there was some sort of in between there, maybe like once every 15 minutes or something until it stops. That would be kind of cool. or once every 30 minutes, or something in conjunction with this idea that as soon as somebody comes in the room and asks the Echo to do something, it would say that reminder again, assuming they didn't cancel it or stop it on another device. So, interesting, but I think we see a lot of maturity growing here in the reminder section. So that was just our brief thought for today about how to really get the ninja capabilities out of your reminders feature. Don't forget repeating reminders. Those are fantastic for every day of the week or certain days of the week. Don't forget the flexibility to use a reminder by date. I use that a lot in conjunction with my calendar as well. And so that might give you a lot of food for thought. So it's that time again to turn the ears back on your Echo. Start practicing some of the many things that you've learned. And I'm David Ward for the New Vision program, and we thank you for listening.
Thanks, Dave. In conclusion, let me tell you a thing or two. This episode is brought to you by New Vision at Goodwill Industries of the Valleys, and it is also made possible in part by a grant from Community Foundation serving Western Virginia. And there's more. We're also grateful for the kind use of WVTF Studios. New Vision is a program of Goodwill that provides information services and assistive technology training to individuals with visual impairments living in Southwest Virginia. For more information, check out our website at goodwillvalleys.com/newvision, with no spaces. Goodwill Industries of the Valleys is a nonprofit organization serving the New River, Roanoke, and Shenandoah Valleys of Virginia. Goodwill's mission programs help individuals with disabilities and disadvantages to get back to work and gain greater independence. These shows are provided for educational purposes. This podcast may not be retransmitted, sold, or reproduced without written permission from New Vision. Thanks for listening.